talk about some headlines. We'll start with a report that came out last week about the future of the Texas Longhorns. So perhaps you have heard the rumors that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the Big 12. They're going to leave the Big 12 and go to the Southeastern Conference, better known as the SEC. And the grant of rights is what keeps these programs in their conference. The grant of rights is essentially, I Tepper University, am a member of the Pickle Conference.
Yes.
And so I grant my television rights, my media rights, to the Pickle Conference, and the Pickle Conference sells the media rights as a conglomerate.
Yeah.
So
that's literally like the sole foundation
yeah,
of revenue stream
that's
for
exactly
for
college football, for college athletics. So the grant of rights is set to expire after the 2025 season, after the 2024 season.
Yes.
In 2025, July 2025, I think it is. And there had kind of been a working assumption that you know what, they're going to get out of this early. They're going to negotiate a deal. SEC, Big 12, and the media partners are going to come together and find some sort of way to wiggle out of this to get out a year early. To get out so that they could start playing, so that the first year of Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC would be in 2024 instead of in 2025.
Yes.
The idea being there's too much money to not let that happen. Well, now Pete Thamel at ESPN is reporting that negotiations have stalled between all those entities, the SEC, the Big 12, Texas OU themselves, the television networks, and that these two, and that, in fact, Texas and Oklahoma will not join the SEC until 2025. Now, I think what's important to remember is that these negotiations are ongoing, and you always got to think about who benefits whenever news like this gets out.
Yep.
Like there's like us in the media, we are often used as tools to get like negotiating tactics.
Oh,
this
yeah.
certainly could be a negotiating tactic. But for now, we've kind of been working under the assumption that this year in the Big 12 is going to be like, oh, it's wacky. There's 14 teams,
Yeah.
you know? We might get 2 of them. Like, there's a real possibility now with these reports out there that if Texas and OU do not leave until the 2025 season, that we would get 2 years of 14-team Big 12 madness.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've always heard that it's not necessary. Texas, I think, could wrangle up the money to be able to pay the buyout to get out of the Big 12, but there's what I've heard is that OU doesn't necessarily have that same level, and if that's the case, it's pretty much seems confirmed that they're not going to go one person leaves before the other.
No.
They are a
deal.
package deal.
They're a package
so
deal.
It's like, I think,
for as big of rivals they are, they understand that they are stronger together.
Yep.
There's a reason that it's not just Texas leaving. That's
Right.
Texas and OU leaving together as a package. And the SEC probably wouldn't want, they would not pass up the opportunity to have Texas, but like they want them both.
Right.
And so I would say that, and I don't know that to be the fact, or to be a fact. I've heard that,
Yeah.
but I don't know that to be a fact. The other thing is that while Texas and OU are rich, it's still a big check to write to leave.
Huge.
And so the idea of negotiating down an exit fee is really exactly what we're like. That's exactly what they're going for. They want to negotiate this down to a fee that's not going to be a killer. And so for now, they haven't come to that agreement. And as time ticks on, it becomes less and less likely that they're going to. But, ultimately, they don't have to come to a decision until like July 2024. They've got a full year and a half to get it done. But for now, Pete Thamel is saying that it may not happen. So prepare yourself for potentially 2 years of the 14-team Big 12. That's in Austin. Let's go to College Station, where the Texas A&M Aggies, I think, got their best news of the offseason this past week. And that is that Ainias Smith, the star wide receiver for Texas A&M, announced he will return for one more season. He only played 4 games last year, due to injury. But he has been very clearly, during Jimbo Fisher's time, very clearly their top target and their number one target. He only caught 15 passes last year, or in 2021. but was still the third leading receiver. I mean, he is their go-to guy. It'll be very interesting to see now because, Bobby Petrino takes over at the offensive coordinator spot. Mm-hmm. There are going to be some young stars on this offense between Evan Stewart and Moose Muhammad and Donovan Green. Connor Wigman is going to have his complement of weapons. When you add in Anaya Smith, they're going to have playmakers. They're going to have playmakers on the outside. How well can they put it all together? Can that offense find that juice that they were so obviously lacking last year? We'll find out. But it's big news for A&M as Anaya Smith announced he will return in 2023. That's huge. I imagine the way he's thinking is, well, let's put it this way. I imagine he got a draft grade back, and the draft grade was not something he was super pumped about. And so he's like, all right, we'll run it back one more year and see if I can up that grade, especially considering he was hurt for most of 2022. Mm-hmm. So, Anaya Smith is coming back. Speaking of the Big 12's new conference look, they put out their schedule for the 2023 season. Sorry, I'm getting all messed up. Put out their schedule. You can find it on TexasFootball.com. Couple things. One, welcome to, for Houston, the newest Texas member of the Big 12. Right into the fire, they open week 3 hosting TCU. You figured that they were going to give them a showcase matchup to open conference play. Mm-hmm. Not a whole lot more showcase than hosting a national runner-up in week 3. So that's big doings.
Houston also, this is kind of crazy. They have 8 of their 12 games are in the city of Houston.
Yeah.
Because they also, 2 of their non-conference games are Sam Houston and then Rice. So 8 of their 12 games will be held in the city of Houston.
Yeah, it is absolutely wild. They're not going to leave H-Town for a while. Mm-hmm. I thought if you're looking for winners and losers from the schedule, I thought Texas got a really soft landing. Mm-hmm. I thought Texas got a really soft landing overall, and they've got to feel pretty good about their schedule. I thought Tech actually got a pretty soft landing as well. I think if you're Baylor, you're wondering what'd you do to deserve this, because that's a tough road to hoe.
That is,
and especially
from matchups to on the road to all of it,
it's all pretty tough. Anyway, you can find the schedule there at TexasFootball.com. Elsewhere, headlines across state. Let's go drop to the Lone Star Conference, Division II. So Angelo State had a fabulous year last year. Fabulous season last year. 12-1, running all the way to the national semifinals, I believe. Mm-hmm. They were looking really good. They have now lost 2 All-Americans from last year to the transfer portal. Offensive lineman Jake Long and linebacker Darren Allman have recently announced they're going into the portal. This is the team that is expected to be one of the favorites in the Lone Star Conference going into 2023. To lose those 2 guys who were so integral to their run to the national semifinals, I think is pretty harmful. It hurts a lot, I think, for Angelo State. So keep an eye on that. How do they rebuild, and where do those guys land? They're going to be hot. They're going to be hot commodities, at least at the FCS level, I would say, if not the FBS level, because they are guys who prove their mettle there at the Division II level. Elsewhere in college football, want to make sure we mention this. Tarleton has hired an offensive coordinator. Mason Miller is going to be the offensive coordinator. He's going to assume play calling duties from Todd Whitten, their head coach. Miller has been on Mike Leach's staff the past 3 seasons, but he is actually a name that you may remember. He was their offensive coordinator back in 2014 and 2016. He was also on a staff there at McMurray before then. He was head coach for a year in 2013. He got his first college job with Hal Mumme there on the Southeastern Louisiana staff. So that Hal Mumme, Mike Leach tree, he is a product of that. So what kind of offense will that bring to Tarleton? Probably a high-flying air raid style. So keep an eye on that. But Tarleton has hired Mason Miller to be their next offensive coordinator. Finally, the college football, or rather the high school football coaching change carousel continues to spin. TexasFootball.com has all the coaching changes, but I want to show you one in particular. That is that Flatonia has hired a new head coach. They've hired Brent Maschuk to be their next head coach. Maschuk comes to Flatonia, taking over a program that is in a good spot to compete. He has been for the last 7 years, he's been at West Columbia. And has done pretty darn good things. I would expect him to continue to run something like the wing T, which is what he ran there at West Columbia with a couple of big time, a couple of real successful stints there. Had a couple of big seasons there at West Columbia. But Brent Maschuk is going to be the next head coach at Flatonia. So we got all the coaching changes at TexasFootball.com. Those are some headlines from across the state.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.